This is day 3, part 3 of the killer dentist murder trial. If you have not been following the case, I'll give you a recap. Please, major trigger warning. This is Dr. Suzanne Miracle. She was a prominent dentist, had a very successful practice in St. Simon's Island prior to her arrest. Now, according to reports, she's facing murder charges for allegedly taking the life of her boyfriend, David Barron, in March of 2025. According to the state, they had a very toxic relationship. She was very controlling. And well, in December of 2024, she found out that he was actually speaking to a woman in Moldova and sending her thousands every single month. And that apparently took her over the edge and made arguments significantly worse because he wouldn't stop doing it. In March, she took his life. The defense, in their opening statement, advises that she was a victim of domestic violence and that, in fact, she was no longer her knight in shining armor after they purchased the home in Lake Lanier. According to the defense, she states that after they purchased that home, he changed completely. He started controlling what she would wear. He would hit her and make it clear that she is not to tell anyone. She didn't. According to the defense, she defended herself that day. Taking his life was her only way to save her own. Now, this is the final part of Evan, his son's testimony, as well as we'll go into the lead investigator. Evan, in the previous video, shared that a few months before this all happened, she started texting him and telling him how she loved his dad, but that he was in communication with a woman. Not only was he in communication with that woman, he was also paying for an apartment in New Jersey for the woman's daughter. She says, look, when I bought this house with him, he didn't, give me a dime. In fact, now we've traveled. I've always had to pay for my own stuff. He pays for his own, and he's over here giving this woman $6,000 and $7,000 a month. I really think that he is being scammed. I don't want him to feel like it's all of us against him, but I'm really concerned about him. So the son, he's utterly in shock, but at the same time, he does state that in a family vacation in August, apparently the uncle, David's brother, had seen paperwork on his desk of him helping a woman come to this country with a green card. She reaches out constantly, continues communicating, letting him know, I can't do this anymore. I love you guys, but unfortunately your dad needs help, and he's not going to stop communicating with this woman. He's in shock. He sits down with his dad and he tells his dad, I think you are getting scammed. We are really worried about you. We're worried about your health. Just a lot of things. And he did make it clear that, look, my dad didn't tell us anything about his relationship. That's not how it worked. He kept all of that part of his life completely private. One of the things that they do ask, though, at the end is, we notice in the text messages, she's very comfortable sharing details with you. Did she ever tell you that your dad would hurt her, that your dad would control what she would wear, where she would go? And he said, no, never shared that at all. At this point, the defense team starts asking questions. And one of the calls that we talked about in the last video was a call where she calls at 11 p.m. and that you could hear him in the background yelling and apparently hitting him. She was in the bathroom. Don't know to what extent the fight continues happening, but what we do know, according to the defense, is the fact that she was locked in that bathroom. They could hear him yelling. They could hear him hitting the door. They know that he eventually left to a hotel to spend the night, and that was factual. In fact, the brother said, or the son said, look, he did that all the time. When he didn't want to have arguments, he left the house and went to a hotel. As if, the defense really wants to show a pattern of issues with their relationship. Now, what was interesting is that supposedly he had taken the keys away from her that night so that she couldn't leave the property. But when he found out his dad died, he went to the home and the second set of keys of that vehicle were hung up where all the other keys were. So did he take the keys? I don't know. The next witness is the main investigator. His name is Matthew Mefford, I believe. He shares that he was contacted to let him know that there was a victim on the way to the hospital that had been shot. When he arrives, that's when they let him know that person indeed was deceased. So he goes from the hospital to the house where she's sitting on the steps. He starts talking to her and tells her, let's go talk at the precinct or, downtown, wherever they go, because she was extremely anxious. It was like she couldn't get words out, and he wanted to make sure she was in a quiet spot where they could talk. They arrive. Sure enough, she starts just telling him about the relationship, about the fact that, they had never gotten into such a big argument until this night. She was a dentist. She had 3 kids and he had 2 sons. She kept asking if he was okay. And the officer was like, I'm waiting for them to call me, knowing good and he knew that the man was dead. When they start talking about that particular night, she says that they end up getting into an argument. That when they start getting into an argument, he ends up hitting her, according to her. Then took his gun and said, "I will shove it down your throat," etc. And then she says, "Look, I'm leaving." But she was scared because she had a couple of drinks. And that is when she said, "I got my gun. I don't know why I got my gun." And he said, "I got mine. I got your phone and I got your journal." So at that point, he goes upstairs. She says, "I know it sounds stupid. I went back upstairs. We've never gotten like this. He's pushed me a few times. I don't know what to tell you, what changed." At this point, apparently he goes upstairs. She says, "Look, I don't know if he slammed the door or he shot his gun. What I do know is that something flew and he had my cell phone, he had my journal, everything with him." At this point, I told myself I'm just going to shoot the lock because he kept banging on the door. He wouldn't give her stuff. She shot the door. But she said at this point, it was like silence. And she said, "Okay, I'm going to go downstairs." She ran downstairs because she kept beating the door and nothing changed. She goes to get a hammer. She starts hammering the door until she's able to make a hole. At that point, she sticks her hand in and locks up the door. His body was there and there was blood everywhere. Of course, she's crying. This is all, the video that they're showing. And she said, "I got down on my knees. I tried to go where he was. I grabbed my phone and I immediately called 911. I couldn't even talk. I can't even remember if a woman or a man answered. She was asking for my name. That's when I slipped." He said, "Well, what do you mean you slipped?" She said, "I slipped on all the blood trying to go over him. It's like everywhere. I was trying to keep the lock up or beat off the door when all of this happened." At the end of the day, apparently she is sticking to her story. Now, she also says that prior to all of this beginning, he had threatened her with the gun, put it inside of her mouth, said that he was going to shoot her. That is why she went and got her gun, because she felt that she needed it for protection. He saw her get her gun and even said, "What do you need it for?" And, she made it clear, "I have a gun too." Now, they continue asking her about the shell casings. Keep in mind that according to the state, she took those shell casings and flushed them down the toilet. And also the police that came when they looked into the house, because it was like 1, 2 in the morning, it was dark, she was on her knees cleaning everything. So he's asking her about the shell casings. She's like, "No, that was another time. I guess that same night where some bullets had fallen out or whatever. I don't even remember. All I know is that she said that it was not these particular shell casings. He told her pick those up and throw them away." He's like, "Okay, but that doesn't make any sense because I can't find the shell casings from when you fired the gun." And she goes, "I don't know where they're at. I don't know what you're talking about. I saw them. These shell casings that I flushed have nothing to do with this particular incident." Now, in the next video, we will go into her text messages between her and David, as well as other things that the investigator discusses, where he asks her a few questions and also the search of the house. Talk to you soon.